My name is Cindy Tevens, and I'm an author and a speaker on inner peace and happiness. I've written The Happiness Lie, What Generations Have Been Told That Makes You Unhappy, and as well as Alchemy, How to Feel Good No Matter What. And I wrote Alchemy first because I had an experience that altered my life. And I just felt compelled to write it, and my life has changed in every way since then. Hi Taylor, welcome, thanks for joining. If any of you are new to Periscope, like I am, you can tap the screen, and that will send hearts fluttering up the side of the screen to let me know that you're enjoying what I'm talking about, and spreading the love, so to speak. And if you want to share the broadcast with other people, because it's going to be a really good one, and you have an iPhone, just swipe to the right, and you can see a little share link. And if you're on an Android, just swipe straight up, and you'll see the share link also to invite your friends. Today I'm talking about how happiness goes hand in hand with the here and now. And I chose this topic because we're live today, and we are here and now. And it is fundamental to everything that I speak about and show people how to shift their state. And that's really the key. Nobody told you that you can shift your state, but you've been doing it since you were an infant, since you were a babe in your mom's arms, when you would go from screaming or being upset to giggling. We've all been capable of doing it. We just didn't have a conscious understanding how. And when you shift your state, everything changes. Your perspective changes. Your behavior changes. Your outcome changes. How many of you ever wanted to have acted different in some situation in retrospect? Geez, why did I act that way? I knew better, right? Give me a yes. Anybody out there ever have that experience? Just text me a yes. And I'm going to see. I can't see any texting, so are you guys talking to me? Or are you just listening to me? I would like to see some comments, but Twitter is not giving them to me, so I'll trust that you've had a similar experience at least once in your life. Yay! Somebody said yes. Thanks, Francis. I can see you now. I think a lot of people are new to Periscope as I am, just figuring this thing out. So yeah, you can type me a note down there. Oh, I got a heart too. Look at that. You can type me a note down there. Ask me a question. Anything you would like to know, I'll answer, as long as it's legal. So, happiness is hand in hand with the here and now. What do I mean by the here and now? You know, a lot of people talk about here and now, right? But what is the now? Well, the now is all that is. There is nothing else. You could have a thought about the past or a thought about the future, but where is it happening? When's it happening? Here and now. So no matter what the content of the thought says, no matter how it appears to be about the past or it appears to be about the future because of the content says past or future or implies it, it's still only here and now. And when we forget it's here and now and we go off into thought about the past or the future, both of these are stories and they're interrelated, because don't we say, well, I never do this. That really is something that happened in the past. You're talking about it as if it's here and now. And you're also projecting it into the future like you have a crystal ball. And you don't. However, if you put something out there like I never do this or I never do that, or if I don't do this before I go to bed, for example, I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m. Well, guess what's going to happen if you don't do this and that and the other before you go to bed? You'll be stressing yourself out, and you will likely have a problem at 3 a.m. Self-fulfilling prophecy. What if you go about your day without that? You do what you do without that story about the past, about the future. Can you do this? Yes, you can. I know you can, because I've been there, done that. So, how do you do that? That's a lot of what I'm going to be talking about. I talk about using the 5 powers everybody was born with. And one of them is discernment. Discerning between what is a thought and what is actually real. And what's real? What's real is what you're hearing, touching, tasting, feeling, sensing, smelling. Everything else is commentary on what you're seeing, touching, tasting, hearing, feeling, smelling. Everything else is a thought. And the thought can be anything, because a thought is pure imagination. You know, I could tell you that your stove is hot. Does that mean your stove's hot just because I spoke this thought to you? No, of course not. You see, so thought can have no relationship whatsoever to reality, and just can be complete imagination. And that's really what it is. Not only that, but it's always after the fact. You know, one day I was washing the floor and I pushed the bucket a little too hard with the broom, and the water sloshed up and over and whooshed all down. And I saw it all run everywhere. And then moments later, dramatic moments later, thought came in and said, "There's water on the floor." Well, I knew that. I could see that. I didn't need a thought to tell me that there was water on the floor. So you see, thought always comes after the fact. It's always a commentary on top of what already is. So in that way also, it's not real. But why do we take thought to be so real? We can get so involved in thought that we become unconscious. Unconscious to what? Reality. To what actually is happening. Thanks for the hearts. Very nice. Pretty green hearts. So when you get involved with thought, what I mean by that is you're putting your second power, your power of attention, fully into and contracting onto thought. Instead of your actual reality, you become unconscious to your reality, and you live in the dream called thought. And that it can be a very painful place to live. It's not in alignment with what is. And I have a lot of clients who suffer severely, and one of the common complaints I hear from them is, it's like I'm dead. It's like I'm not alive. And I agree, because you're not alive. When you're living in thought, that's not living. There's no real, tangible existence there. It's a fleeting thought that comes and goes, that clings from one thought to the next, to the next, to the next. And it tends to deteriorate if you feel bad. You see, if you feel good, good thoughts come to you easily and effortlessly. If you feel bad, bad thoughts come to you easily and effortlessly. Anybody here ever try to force a good thought on a bad feeling? If so, give me some hearts there. I can see any agreement. Have you ever tried to do that? I tried to do that so severely one day. It was so painful. Well, if you've tried this, then you know it doesn't work. So this thing called positive thinking, that's basically what it is. You're taking a good thought and trying to force it onto a bad feeling, and then you don't feel congruent. So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really work. But then you might wonder, well, gee, what's wrong with me? Everybody else seems to be able to do it. No, they just say they do, but they don't really. Not when you're in a really bad state. So I show people how to shift your state first. Because when you feel good, good thoughts come to you easily and effortlessly. Wisdom comes to you. You have access to information you don't have when you contract your attention down into the stream of thinking. You become a very tiny, finite being. Of course, you can't actually, because you're not that. But that's another topic. But it will appear to be that. And what is the stream of thinking? It's things you've stored on your hard drive from the past. It's things you're imagining will be your future, whether you're aware that you're doing that or not. And that's based on the past. So your world becomes very tiny, based completely on what's been stored on the hard drive, what's happened to you in life, what you've concluded. So a whole pile of thoughts. Is there a different way to live? Absolutely. Absolutely. Feel free to jump in with any questions. Tap the screen if you like what I'm saying, because I'll keep enhancing upon it, because I know that that's something you're interested in. When I see those hearts flow. So, how do you know you're in the stream of stressful thinking? Well, first of all, it feels bad. That's your first tip-off. It's your red flag. When you start to feel bad, you can bet you are engaging in a stream of stressful thinking. And that is your way out. I say use suffering for the only thing that it's good for, to point you toward joy, to turn the ship around. It may take a little while to get it going, but you can once you start. And you keep going in that direction, you can get there. So, shifting your state. How do you do that if you can't use positive thought? You do use thought to a point, and then you abandon it. So you ask yourself this question. This is a key question. You want to write this down. First question is, what do I want? When you're feeling bad, ask yourself, what do I want? And answer it. And answer it like a child would. Don't be bigger than it. Don't just say, I want to feel better anyway. I want to be above it. No. What is it you're actually wanting in the moment? Because you're wanting something. If you weren't wanting something, you wouldn't feel bad. There'd be no problem. So you're wanting something, or you're wanting to not have something. But either way, you're wanting. So what is it that you want? Be very childlike. For example, if I took candy away from a child and they started to cry, and I asked them, what do you want? Do you think they'd say, well, I want to be at peace without the candy? No. They're going to say, I want the candy. Okay? So what candy are you wanting? That's the first question. The second question is, how does it feel? How does having your candy feel? See, I say we don't want things, people, or events. We want the feeling we mistake them for. Because if you didn't get a feeling, would it matter? Really? No. So you're really after a feeling. And you do know how that feeling feels. So you can access that feeling anytime. You don't have to have the thing, the person, or the event to have the feeling. And not only will this feel as good, it can feel even better. And here's why. Because the thing or the person or the event that you want is limited. Limited. Limited in how much joy you'll so-called get from it. Limited to how long it'll last. Because everything changes. We're honest, right? Everything comes and goes. And limited because we've created a happiness hierarchy, a false happiness hierarchy. For example, if you get an ice cream cone, you have a certain amount of happiness, right? But what about a new car? Ha! Way more happiness, right? New house, partner, child. So we have these rules that we're not even conscious of that limits how happy you can feel. And what I discovered is happiness, joy, and bliss beyond belief, beyond anything that you think gives you joy, because nothing ever has given you joy or love. Love and joy and peace are your birthrights. And it's only through the things that you've been taught that you've limited it. And you are capable of so much more love, joy, peace, and bliss than you have lived or imagined. In fact, it's been your imagination that's kept you from it. You imagine something else gives it to you. You imagine something else or someone else hurts you. And so you do. But if you really watched your experience closely, if you really watched your reality versus a thought about your reality, you'd start to catch on that we've been taught a happiness lie. The lie is that things, people, or events make you happy or unhappy. And that lie has kept you unhappy. It has limited your joy, and it has exasperated, needlessly, your experience of pain and suffering. And the good news is that because it's a lie and it's not the truth, it can change like that. That's what I discovered. And it was mind-blowing to discover. Literally blew my mind. At first mind fought it. No, that can't be true. I would start to feel better and better and have these states of bliss and ecstasy that would grow and grow and grow. And then mind would kick in and go, but you can't feel that good. Nothing's happened. And the state would disappear. Just like that. And I was, wait a minute. I prefer the state over the thought that I can't have the state. You see, it's the thought that you can't have the state that feels bad. Now that makes sense. Because it's not true, and because your natural state is love, joy, bliss, that should feel bad. And so I began to experiment with it. And I would grow these states of bliss and joy and love and ecstasy for no reason. No reason. Because I thought things still did it, I would use things for a moment. I'd use like a plant. I liked plants a lot. I still like plants a lot. So I used plants. But the state grew and grew and grew beyond the plant, which means beyond my belief that the plant was making me feel good. Because I was feeling so good, mind couldn't possibly say that's because of the plant, because, no, the plant's really low on the hierarchy of things, And so these states were just explosive. Amazing. And I went around like that for 9 months on a high. Well, actually for about 3 weeks on a high, and then the high was exhaustive. So then I realized, I could also feel these immense states of peace and bliss. That was very calming and relaxing and very nourishing. So I went like that, around like that, between bliss and ecstasy and peace for 9 months. And an equanimity settled in. I didn't want anything of the world anymore. What for? It did nothing for me. I have everything already. So I quit trying to manipulate the world, trying to get this and get that and prevent this and prevent that in order to feel good. It's not that I didn't function in the world. I did. Now I was free to function like I've never functioned before. Because I'm not attached to anything. I don't need things to go a certain way. And when you're open like that, creativity floods. Wisdom. Things come out of you. You don't know where it came from. Because in truth it had nothing to do with you, but the greater wisdom available to everybody. And this equanimity itself was a deeper level of peace than I had even been experiencing in those 9 months. And that led me to the only thing that mattered to me anymore. Because it was nothing of the world anymore that mattered. So what was left, this next question arose, and it was, what matters now? Well, I wanted to know, how did we get here? What are we doing here? Where do we go from here? Actually, wait a second, who are we? These questions started to come to the forefront. And all of my energy was available for them, having no distractions of anything else. And I pursued the love and the joy and the bliss just to see how good it could get. And I found no limit until one day, a supernova explosion of love at my chest. And then my head knocked me to my knees, crying in the woods with bliss and rapture and ecstasy. And I looked up at the trees and I saw they are me. And I can't put that any other way that makes any sense, because it doesn't make any sense to the mind whatsoever. It was a literal, direct seeing, recognition that they are me. And everywhere I looked, there too, and there too, and there too. And everything I looked at is me. And I fell over in the snow, laughing and crying and giggling like every cell in my body was being tickled. Nothing mattered. Everything was fine forever and ever. And there's nothing to do. And that was the end of suffering. So this love and joy, if you entertain it, if you engage in it, if you pursue it, like I did, I pursued it like a lover. It was on my mind 24/7. I was engaging constantly. It didn't matter what I was doing. There was nothing that I didn't like doing anymore. Dishes, waiting in line, cleaning the toilet, nothing. Having learned that nothing dictates how I feel, why would I do that to myself? So, and you can discover the same thing if you just try it on. Just try it on. So the first question, what do I want? And the second question, how does what I want feel? So if you want someone to speak politely to you, then ask yourself, how does him speaking politely to me feel? And state it exactly that way. And the last word is feel. So you notice, feel is not think. Some thoughts and images and memories might come up, it's okay, but you keep your attention on feeling. Feeling what you want. And in that way you give it to yourself instead of demanding it from anybody outside of you. And it will appear. That's what happened to me in the middle of my most intense suffering of my life. I just stopped because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to blame anybody, and I couldn't suffer anymore. My father suffered so severely that he died by suicide. And when I left the hospital, I told him it would not be for nothing. And I didn't know what that meant. But it started me on a quest to find an end to suffering. And so when the thought of suicide arose to me, and it did, in the middle of my intense suffering, it was out of the option. So I didn't know what else to do, because we're not taught anything else. We usually blame somebody to feel better, right? We might feel a little bit better, but there's still a bad taste in the mouth. And there's not freedom and peace and love for all. And so I drew very high bars. 0 tolerance for blame, 0 tolerance for pain. And I didn't know what to do, so I stopped right in the middle of that. And I'd been doing a lot of wanting. I want this, I want that. And I realized it didn't matter how much I wanted. I wasn't going to get it. It wasn't going to change anything, this wanting. And so in that moment when I stopped, I heard or knew, you can give yourself whatever you want. What? Well, that begged the next question. Well, if that's true, what do I want? And that's the first question. And as soon as I put my attention on what I do want and not what I don't want, bang, there it was. It just felt like relief at first. I was happy with relief because I'd been suffering so much. But I stayed with it a little longer, and as I did, I realized it turned into pleasure. The longer you stay with it, the longer you enjoy it, the longer you appreciate, and especially appreciate it, it will grow and grow and grow in size and intensity. And as long as you don't let mind come in, well, it will come in, you can't stop it, but as long as you don't believe a thought that you can't feel this good, it will grow, and it will grow, and it will grow, and it will grow. It will grow beyond belief. And I challenge you to experiment with this and see how high it can grow for you. If you're liking anything that I'm saying, give me some hearts on the screen. It's pretty quiet there. You might be absorbing it all, and I appreciate that too. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and I'll answer you. Do you want more of what I'm saying? Or you just don't believe it? I know it's hard to believe, but just try it on. Just check it out. Just see if I'm wrong. I know I wouldn't have believed it back then either. But I won't let it go now. I'll be showing you in future broadcasts more about how to do this, how to use the 5 powers you're born with to shift your state, how to understand them. They've been operating your whole life on autopilot, and they've kind of gone off the rails as a result. But you can take conscious control and start using them to your benefit. And so today I spoke about power of discernment, discerning what is a thought from reality, and power of attention, which I'll demonstrate to you in another broadcast by doing a 2-minute technique to inner peace. 2 minutes, that's all it takes, 2 minutes to access inner peace, no matter where you are or what's going on around you. And I mean no matter. I was at a Zoomer show this spring with a bunch of people in a huge building with activities and bands in every corner and nuts, insane going on. And there were these people, first time ever they heard me, and they were able to shift. Able to shift right there in the middle of that mayhem. And I said to them, yeah, if you can do this here, you can do this anywhere. And it's true. And I just got a question that said, yeah, I don't have too much trouble believing that it's true, but hard to sustain it. I'm paraphrasing because the question is gone. So if you want to rephrase it, go ahead. But it's a common objection. And the thing to notice is, right here, right now, what is happening? You're sitting where you're sitting, you're hearing what you're hearing. That's what's actually going on. And then a thought comes in and says, oh yeah, but it's hard to sustain it. How does that thought feel, good or bad? You notice it's a thought, not an absolute, not a reality, just a thought. It's actually, I call thoughts options. Every thought is an option, meaning you can't stop thoughts. It's the brain's job is to spew out thoughts. But you do have the option to believe them, to entertain them, to put your power of attention on them, to engage with them, to become unconscious with them. And you know that you're doing it again because you're feeling bad. And if that thought feels bad, that's your wake-up call. And you can just drop it, or you can shift it. So the thought comes up, I can do it, but I just really can't sustain it. How does that thought feel? Bad. What do you want instead? That I don't even have to sustain it, or that I can sustain it, whichever you feel comfortable with. And how does that thought feel? Okay, so how does not needing to sustain anything, because that's a lot of work, sustaining something. This is effortless. What's effortful is entertaining a bad feeling thought like, I have to sustain it. Now you have to sustain that thought, because no thought stays for very long, if you notice. Every thought comes for a fleeting moment, dwells and decays and disappears in your presence. You don't come and go. It comes and goes. But when you think you are the character in the I thought, in the thought, you become unconscious. And now you experience that thought as if it were absolute truth for you. But no thought is absolute truth. None. Every thought believed in will be experienced, but no thought is true. Does that help? I hope that helps. So, when you feel good, you kind of inoculate yourself from these kinds of ideas. Because as you shift your state, you access, what do I want? Well, I want it to be effortless. I want joy and peace to be effortless. And by the way, it is, because it's your birthright. But putting your attention on the thought, I want love and joy to be effortless. How does love and joy being effortless feel? Answer that question. Anybody notice how that feels? Give me some hearts. It may be strange at first because, this is new. But if you persist, and it doesn't take very long, trust me, you start to shift very quickly, then you'll be sold. Your suffering will be over. Why would you do that to yourself? Everybody wants to be happy. Why? Because that's our natural state. It's your birthright. It is the default. When something that appears to cause trouble to you goes away, whether that's a person, thing, or an event, or a thought about a person, thing, or event, you revert back to your natural state. Love, joy, peace, bliss. You don't need anything to be happy. You need something to be unhappy, to quote a guru teacher that I love, Papaji. So you need something to be unhappy, like an unhappy thought about something. And now your peace is disturbed. Your natural baseline peace is disturbed. So hang around. We'll be trying this on. We'll be interviewing guests, people who've used this practice and altered their life with it. I'll be talking about the woods, my experience in the woods, and some artifacts. I'll be able to show you the woods now that we have video like this. I can take you right out there and show you some artifacts from what I call the enchanted forest. Of course, every forest is enchanted, but I have this particular one that I live by. We'll be doing breakthrough sessions with alchemy, so people will come in with their objections or their problems or their patterns, and we'll blow them right out. So I look forward to seeing you regularly and seeing the love and joy, because that's the only thing of interest to me left in this world. And I love sharing it. So thank you for joining me. Reach out to me if you want on my website, alchemylovejoy.com, or you can go with Cindy Tevens. And I'll see you next time. Have a great night.